This had better be important.
Yes, sir. The American agent has infiltrated the X-Lab facility.
Welcome back to the Combat Footage Review Show. I'm Ronnie. I'll be your host. It's Friday. Do me a favor, tap on the like button, drop a comment in the chat. Let me know where you are. Words are hard. Here we go. Where you at? Wisconsin. I see you. Denver. Coming. What's up? Palm Springs. This is loud. Is that loud for you? Let's turn that down just a little bit. South Carolina, what's going on? Australia, how are you? Looking in from Canada. Coming up to your neck of the woods here soon. Twice this year. Back-to-back months in Canada. Got some fun travel coming up. I'll talk about that. Spicy soda, pink mist. With none of the metallic flavor. What's up? I lost my Funker mug, so here, this is where we are now. I don't want the lid on it. Utah here, brother. What's going on, guys? Anaheim, California. I see you. Planet Earth. Same. Houston, Texas. What's up? Ronnie came in slapping. Yeah, most days, I guess. Happy Friday to you, South Texas. What's up? Just continuing to read through the chat here. I've always loved watching the chat and seeing where everybody's joining us from. You know, the Funker community is so wide and so large and all disagrees about so many different things. It's really fun to watch, to be honest with you. Orlando, what's up? Tucson, Arizona. Well, let's get started. So tonight, more combat footage review, more war and things and stuff that we're going to cover. It's going to be a little bit of a spicy night. Going to give you the discretion advised way ahead of time. We will see war happen throughout the night tonight. We'll talk about Iranian choppers going down on their own or otherwise. I'm not sure which. One way or another they went down. We'll talk about Azerbaijan related to the Iranian chopper. We're going to see footage out of Ukraine. We're going to see footage out of Palestine, out of the West Bank, really running the gamut of at least the two major wars that we have going on currently. There's all kinds of conflict zones. You guys need to be checking in on the app and website to catch a lot of that stuff. There's just not enough time to cover everything on this show. That's why this is supplementary to the work that the guys do behind the scenes on the app and website. So please download the app. It's free. You don't have to pay for it. We don't collect your data. We literally have a badge on the iOS App Store that says does not collect user data, and we're very proud of that. But let's talk about tonight's show, and let's get into the show's sponsor. You guys should know them at this point. It's Venture Surplus. Venture Surplus has been a longtime sponsor of the show, at least over the last couple months, and we're very appreciative of that, especially with the continuous, jabs and left hooks we're having to throw with YouTube over the content that we share. The content that we share is going to be up and down, right? That's war. There's elation in war, those highs, and then there is tragedy, which is what most people should be familiar with after watching this show. But Venture Surplus has stepped in to help us along the way, continue to keep it going. You guys should use the code, I want to say it's Funky10. Yeah, I nailed it. Wow. Funky10 gets you 10% off. You guys don't have to, that doesn't provide us any more money. That's for you. That's just 10% off of anything that you order over from Venture Surplus, Milsurp stuff. They've got medical gear, rucksacks, assault packs, all that kind of junk. So if you're into it, go check out Venture Surplus. Let's get into the episode tonight, though, because I've got a lot of footage. This is another one of those nights that everything didn't fit into the stream description. I try to put everything in the stream description for you guys, just so that you can reference back to it. Say we cover something and I'm a little bit quick going through it, but you want to refer back to it. It's in the stream description. What I've also done, admin note, is I have also started deploying my stream notes, which is really just a list of videos, to Twitter, right? I'm very active on both our Funker actual Twitter and my personal Twitter. My personal Twitter is kind of turning into a thirst trap. It's nothing but like fitness stuff. So if you're into fitness, I lost like 100 pounds, go check that out. But on the Funker actual Twitter, one of the things you're going to start to see is this show as well. What we need to do as a team and as an organization is build in a little bit of redundancy, right? So we're going to begin by possibly, well, it's not possibly, it's just a matter of time, also broadcasting this to Twitter, right? In the process of doing that, I deployed the list of the videos to Twitter tonight. It's long, somewhere around 6,000 characters worth of stuff. But let's get right into what I wanted to cover tonight. If you're not aware and you live under a rock, the Iranian president's chopper went down. Oddly enough, everybody kind of blamed that immediately on Mossad. But let's take a look at where that went down. They were actually on their way back from Azerbaijan. It's really interesting terrain that it went down in. They were inside of Iranian territory, though. Just barely. So as we zoom out here, we'll let all the countries populate there. Just barely inside of Iranian territory. But it went down, and people were wondering why it was taking them so long to access this chopper. Why would it have taken a nation state this long to find their president? On board in the chopper was the Iranian president Ibrahim Raisi, their foreign minister, the governor of eastern Azerbaijan, Tabriz's imam, the pilot, the co-pilot, the crew chief, the head of security, and supposedly a bodyguard. All were killed in this. The wreck was actually found by a Turkish Bayraktar. Here's the footage of that Turkish Bayraktar that found the crash site. You can see that burning there. Now, down here in the bottom right is ultimately how I got the exact coordinates. So you've got two coordinates down here. You've got the aircraft coordinate in the bottom left, and then in the bottom right, you have the point of interest target. That is the coordinates that we're looking at here. But footage did emerge from the team as they approached the crash site. Discretion advised on this. Although it is blurred, it's very easy to see and discern what exactly you're looking at here. I got a little bit more detail on the aircraft here in a moment. Coming up, here's footage from on the ground as the rescue teams arrived at the chopper.
Oh, shit. Yo, shit. Asmi Abu-Daqa. Yo, shit. Çek. Gel Abu-Daqa. Gelin buraya. Gelin üste. Gelin üste. Gelin üste.
You're already starting to see pieces of that. That's the tail section of what is effectively a civilian version of the UH-1, of a Huey. This is an old aircraft. Now, this is prior to it being blurred here. And if you can make this out, what you can see is a deceased body. This is one of the passengers here. They do try to blur this in a little bit, but it's pretty obvious to make out what that is. There's the blurring that you see. And now I do want to note something. There were people, when I posted this to Twitter, again, I'm very active on Twitter. I posted this to Twitter and everybody was saying, where's the unblurred version? The unblurred version is not going to provide any additional value. It's not going to give you any identifying marks on any of these individuals. It's solely there for your bloodlust, right? At this point, we can see that there are charred and burnt bodies that are 100% the Iranian president and his entourage that he had there. There's absolutely no reason to really even desire to see the unblurred version of this, because even through the blur, which we'll see here in a minute, you're able to very easily make out what you're looking at. Let's go back to the video.
گروه امداد کوهستان هیئت متساوات ای وای یا حسین 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 یا حسین.
At one point here, you're also going to see the rotor. There was a rumor going around that this was actually some form of a Cessna, search plane of some kind, but you'll see a rotor, and we might have already passed it. I was drinking some of my pink mist. That's leaned up across the screen, basically laying there. Now, that tail section has been 100% confirmed. This is the chopper. What's really interesting about this, though, is supposedly, this is rumor. I cannot validate this. Again, I'm here to just show you video in the context that we have. There were 3 choppers that were in this chalk that were flying back. This is the only chopper that went down. They were also flying, if you look, you can actually see this, in very, very low visibility. This chopper is not really rated for this type of flight. It's VFR only, essentially visual. Right, you're not going to have those more advanced capabilities in a more modern platform.
Yo, shit. 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 Yo, shit.
All right, let's bring it up. But Turkey wasn't done. This is another one of those instances that I really can't validate what we're about to see. And, not to draw a little bit of light on what is, it doesn't really matter. This is supposedly what this Bayraktar did on its way either into or out of that location. Coming up for you now. Here's the flight pattern of that Bayraktar. Now, this is the crescent moon and star. If you were to go out and find the Turkish flag, a little bit of salt on the wound there. You can see its search pattern over here on the right, though. In that same area, just inside of the Iranian border. Actually, we're not quite inside of the Iranian border there, are we? Waiting for this to update. One way or another. That's the location. You can see the terrain there. Matters relatively little which border it's inside of, outside of the search operation. Might have mattered at the time, but it doesn't now. Really rough terrain. Google Earth is something else, man. We're going to talk about Google Earth once we get into the Ukraine section of the show tonight. Google Earth has started including more modern or more up-to-date imagery. So you're going to see in Ukraine essentially the dotted landscape from artillery fires. It's kind of wild to look at. Let's move on, though, because we're jumping right into the footage coming out of the West Bank in Palestine. This is going to be in Jenin. Now, over the last couple days, I shouldn't say couple days, on or around the 22nd, the IDF conducted a major operation in Jenin. We're going to see 2 perspectives of this. We're going to first see the perspective, this is where the thumbnail comes from as well, this section of video. The first perspective we're going to see are from Hamas or PIJ. Not entirely sure which organization we're looking at here. And them effectively watching the IDF use their machinery to tear up the roads. Then we're going to see an IDF perspective of this, and then we'll end up moving into Gaza. but a major operation took place in Jenin over the course of, I would say, the last 72 hours. Here's that first bit of footage from Hamas, or PIJ. I'd like to note the height over bore on this gentleman's rifle is the size of a skyscraper, and GBRS is real pissed. Now, the rest of this video is more or less them watching this machinery tear up the roads. I'd like to go back to this and the 7.5-inch height over bore, well above average height over bore here. I see a question in the chat. That's actually a question that I've had for a little while, and I'm interested what you guys think. So the first thing that comes to mind when it comes to destroying the road, the question specifically, in case you missed it, is what's the purpose of destroying the road? The only thing that comes to mind for me is to keep rapid movement of these small pockets of Hamas or small pockets of PIJ, the militants that are fighting against the IDF, from being able to rapidly move from one location to another. But that's a shot in the dark. I haven't thought too far into that. It's something that's lingered in the back of my mind. I'm interested to read in the chat what you guys think about that. So let me know what you think the purpose of the IDF tearing up these roads, because there's a lot of footage of it. Not a lot of it that I selected tonight because, again, they're just, you know, kind of tearing up a road. I'm interested to better understand that TTP, though. Let me know what you guys think. All right, let's bring it back up. Now, footage from Jenin, from the IDF's perspective. It's going to be one of your standard IDF releases. You know, shortcuts of individual clips as they move in and around Jenin. Here you are. There is no sound right now in the video. Now there is sound. Why are you supporting terrorists? You haven't been here before, have you? Let's go back to the footage. Shut up. I see all the support in the chat, guys. I'll be jumping in on that here in just a second. All right. Right now, actually, because we're about to move into the footage that I have from Gaza. Pontus, thanks for that 5 gifted. I appreciate you very much, sir. Tiki Teka, thank you very much for the $5. Keep up the good work, and all the vets, thank you for your service. Thank you for that. Calico Jack, thank you for the 27 months as a member. BH, thank you for the 12 months as a member. That's a whole year. That's a whole last year. And thank you very much for that. Brian, thank you very much for the 420. Joyful Womb Liberation Day. It's not my birthday. once again, it's still not my birthday. We're not there yet. It's later on this year. Tommy, thank you for the 20. Just want to say congrats to yourself, Rudy, and everyone behind the scenes involved with the Proof is Out There show. Thank you. Hell yeah. Damn, I loved it. You could see the confidence and chemistry improve as the season went on. I hope the submarine makes bath time more fun. First of all, thank you for anybody that checked in on the final episode like we talked about last week. It was our highest rated episode back-to-back of the entire season. We're waiting right now to find out whether or not the show will get renewed for another season. But even if it doesn't, it was an awesome opportunity to get a chance to meet and then work with Rudy. And I consider Rudy probably a family member at this point. I love that dude, and I think more people should be supporting everything that he does. So thank you guys for watching that. 254. Nemo, thank you for the 254. I've waited all year to say happy birthday. Let's go back to the footage. I've got some footage from Al-Quds, the militant arm of the PIJ. I've got a geolocation for this as well. We're moving into Jabalia. We're going to do some map sounds here. This is where we're headed, as long as I did my job right. And it looks like I did. We're moving to here. Now, this is going to be footage published by the PIJ. This is just one of the multiple locations that's in there. There's going to be a little bit of commentary from these PIJ militants, people. But I believe that the geolocation that I have there is for one of their shots with an RPG against a Merkava. That footage is coming up for you now. It's about 2 minutes long. And for those wondering, the PIJ is the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Their militant arm is the Al-Quds brigades, not unlike Hamas and the Qassam brigades, being the militant arm of the, quote, political party of Hamas. Here you are. I have no idea what he's saying. Now, what's interesting about this, I don't know if anybody keyed in on it. That's a Chinese Type 56 rifle, if I'm not mistaken. I'm happy to be corrected. Which is effectively modeled after an AK, still Chinese. I like the pink blankie on his RPG. What's interesting there in video editing magic is you go from one RPG man to another RPG man, the blankie that you have here, and then no blankie on this one. So two entirely separate situations. Dorito. Just firing mortars in a general location direction that away. Cobra, stop it. We're not there yet. That's the worst suppressor I've ever seen. That is the worst suppressor. Here, I'm gonna crank this volume. What is that? Are there any baffles in it? I don't know. Let me turn the volume back down. You know what that might have been? That might have been a nade launcher. One of those forward attach, old school ones. Oh yeah, you guys are correcting me. Yeah. My brain goes to Kane first. Ow. Off. Dorito. All right, let's bring it up. Now we've got some footage of the IDF moving through Jabalia. That video is coming up for you guys now. Yeah, I see the grenade launcher, guys. I'm happy. That's actually a lesson. It's an important one because people think that I'm here to sell you something. I'm not. If I need to be corrected on something, blow up the chat. I am more than happy to be corrected on literally anything I say. We are here to show you footage and the context that we have right now. That's all we have. That's all we want to do. I'm not here to be a news anchor. I'm not here to sell you something. I just don't care to. That's not what I want to do. Right? So if there is something that I need to be corrected on, not your opinion, I don't your opinion's fine. But that's not something to correct on. I'm talking about factual information, like the can/grenade launcher. Drop it in the chat. The grenade launcher is a very small, very simple example, but that applies to anything that we cover. Here is the IDF moving through Jabalia. Who is Ronnie? Nobody. I'm not even trying to be funny or, humble with that. I'm nobody. I'm an intel guy that solely wants to be here to just share footage, right? I don't even have that fantastic of a military career. I'd like to think that I did some fun and cool stuff, but I am nobody, right? All I care about is helping bring many different perspectives into one overarching understanding. That is all I could ever want out of life. Let's move on, though. We've got some spicy footage here, guys. So, discretion very heavily advised on this. Well, we've seen quite a bit of footage of Hamas taking relatively ranged shots at the IDF in the open. We talked about small pockets of Hamas or Qassam or even Al-Quds. This is what the IDF is dealing with. It's not unlike the same things that any veterans of the global war on terror dealt with. There's an old video. What is it? One Shot Freddy. I have to go back and see if I can find that video. It's of a bunch of U.S. soldiers sitting there and they're taking pot shots from somebody. Anyway, Hamas is hitting some of these. What you're going to see here is you're going to see IDF troops in the general open with perspective filmed from Hamas. They're going to take a shot. And they're going to hit that shot. Some are saying that they hit multiple with this shot. I'll leave that up to you. The IDF troops that are in the area don't really get out of the area very quickly. And that Hamas takes a second shot. Hits another IDF. Discretion advised on this. Here's the footage. Single shot Freddy. Yeah. Now, from a distance perspective, you're actually probably looking at somewhere between 100 and 200 yards here. Just based on the time from the shot to the time to impact being somewhere sub-quarter second. It's very fast. And if you take an average of like 2,900 feet per second, just depends on what caliber they're using, the platform, etc., you're probably looking at somewhere, I guess I'll be more generous, between 1 and 300 yards. Discretion advised. So it looks like he does hit both. So you might have a pass through here on the first soldier into the second. Oh, he dead. No, he's not. You can see him waving his hand here. Especially with a through and through on that first shot. But that's not the end of it. A second there. So this is just going to replay it. But 2 shots. Let's bring it up. Because we're going to be moving into Rafah. It's also not my job to sit here and armchair quarterback. My job is to show you the footage. Multiple airstrikes in Rafah. We're going to talk a little bit more about Rafah and some of the current activities taking place there, because we'll talk about the International Criminal Court and some of the things that they found or declared recently, and then Israel's response to that. We'll get there here in a second, though. We are headed to this location. Right there, where Israel conducted an airstrike on what is effectively the logistics guy for Hamas. His name is Azmi Abu-Daqa. Here's his vehicle getting hit by an airstrike. Was the airstrike another refugee camp? Unless they have a refugee camp inside of this car, no. All right, let's bring it up. Last week. I don't have a location for this. I don't have a location. All I have is what is being widely reported. But Israel found 4, actually it's 7, because there are 2 tunnels where they found 7 total, if I'm tracking correctly, bodies of hostages that were taken on October 7th. This one that we're going to cover tonight is in Rafah, supposedly. I've also seen Jabalia for this, but there was a second tunnel found in Jabalia with 3 other hostages, right? So I think there's some conflation that's happening between the two. This is supposedly the location where Shani Luke, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, was found. We're going to watch the video, and then we're going to talk about it. Now, the other hostages, I can't understand what they're saying, so I'm going to turn that down for a second. Ron Benjamin, Amit Buskila, Itzhak Gelerinter, and Shani Luke. They were found in this tunnel, according to the IDF.
מחליט להתעכב פה במרחב הזה, מחליטים להזיז, ולמעשה מוצאים את החטיפת פח הזאת.
מה זה, אינסטינקט?
זה למידה. הלוחמים, יש להם ניסיון מבצעי בלתי רגיל. הם ראו הרבה דברים, חוו הרבה דברים, זה הרבה התושייה שלהם. והשכל וההיגיון הבא שלהם, של אוקיי.
And fast forward through some of the commentary here.
הרבה, אני אגיד גם תושייה, אבל הרבה חקירה בתנאים מאוד מאוד מאתגרים.
I actually was hoping to find a translated version of this, just to better understand the information that he's relaying. But here is ultimately why I wanted to cover this tonight. Last week, I took a bunch of shit, and that's okay. If we will piss off 100% of the people that watch this combat footage review, it's going to happen. Right? Because we try our very best. We are ultimately human, right? We try our very best to not play inside of boxes or inside of one organization's sandbox. Now, as humans, we ultimately have our biases and imperfections. Last week, I covered a very interesting bit of video that showed the UNRWA hanging out alongside armed gunmen and chasing away and firing at the feet of civilians that were trying to steal aid. They could be armed guards. They could very much be Qassam Brigade's dudes. There's actually been quite a bit of, some would say, evidence that some level of interconnection between the UNRWA and Hamas exists. Well, here's what's real interesting about this. This tunnel was found in a UNRWA building. This is a sign posted on the exterior of the building where this tunnel where 4 of the Israeli hostages were found. This one specifically was funded, if you read the sign, by Germany. Again, just like I said last week, I'm here to give you the information. I'm not here to draw conclusions for you. This is the information that is available. Let's move on. And the link for that is in the stream description. You're welcome to go and research that further if you like. It's entirely up to you. More footage of Hamas doing their tunnel thing here. Here is a location for this. This takes place here. Now, once again, you're going to see Hamas pop out of a tunnel that appears probably out of nowhere over the course of just a couple hours, and in place an IED right next to a Merkava. That footage is coming up for you guys now. Please paste. Stuff no worky. I pasted the wrong one. I'll get good at this one day. It's only been 2 years. Not nearly enough time to know what I'm doing. Oh, Alex, you just sit there. Sit tight. Sit tight. Mortars. The POI for this mortar changed drastically after that first shot, by the way. Look at the difference in emplacement. Now, it ended up settling in after that first shot. So all of these should probably be generally that away. You play Call of Duty, Funker? No. All right. Let's bring it back up. Also in Rafah, a little bit more of IDF released footage in their more or less standard format, kind of short clips. This is the location of at least one point in the video. I believe it is when the IDF is firing from this rooftop that I captured. But more footage from Rafah. Coming up now. This is the one I accidentally pasted the first time. All right. Now, earlier I mentioned the International Court of Justice. We're gonna watch a non-combat footage clip here because it's kind of a tie-in to a combat footage clip. I do my best not to cover. Let me reel that in for a second. I do my best in the process of us looking for and evaluating combat footage. We tend to, of course, glean some things from the geopolitical realm. I don't claim to be a geopolitical expert. I have never really done that. In my career, I have always done very specifically either cyber threat intelligence or just general intelligence. This is one of those instances where we absolutely want to cover things surrounding war, the geopolitics for it. The International Criminal Court, or the International Court of Justice, excuse me, and their president, specifically, Nawaf Salam, had this to say.
Consider that in conformity with obligations under the Genocide Convention. Israel must immediately halt its military offensive and any other action in the Rafah governorate which may inflict on the Palestinian group in Gaza conditions of life that could bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. The court considers that.
So he has the president of the International Court of Justice, this is Nawaf Salam, has effectively said that Israel needs to immediately cease all military operations in Rafah. A little bit about Mr. Salam for a moment. He's Lebanese. On this show, we've covered an innumerable amount of videos from the Lebanese Hezbollah targeting Israel constantly with rockets, Israel targeting Lebanon. His impartiality is something that's being questioned right now, primarily because his previous posting was the Lebanese ambassador to the United Nations. There's a video from 2016. We're not going to watch it here, where once again, he is saying the same exact thing, just at the UN. His impartiality is specifically what's being questioned. Here's what Israel responded with, though, when the ICJ said effectively, you have to stop doing what you're doing. Israel started dropping more bombs on Rafah. Israel's response coming up now. This happened almost simultaneously with this ruling. Now, you might look at this and say, you know, that's just one video. One video shouldn't be indicative of a larger or systemic effort. It was very widely reported that a massive wave of strikes and activity from Israel in Rafah took place immediately following that ruling. This was Israel's response. Here's another perspective of that, of this specific drop. Coming up for you now. What you're seeing there are, quote, bunker busters. That's why they have that plume that comes up after them. I actually have two more perspectives for you to look at here. There's the initial. The full video of this initial one is kind of interesting, actually. I didn't capture it. But it is a guy running through this building that we're watching from, and just a whole bunch of people just running to take video of this. You know, there's no gravity to that. I just found that to be interesting, additional context. So there's that initial strike, and then I have another video of, from a different perspective, of all of that. All right, that's the end of that video. Now, in Rafah, which, according to most, is really just a location for Palestinian refugees, for some level of reprieve from Israel's operations, this was found in Rafah along the border with Egypt. Let's talk through it. What you're seeing here are rocket launch pods hidden under sheet metal all along the border with Egypt in Rafah. Look like firework launchers? Yeah, spicy fireworks. Aiming towards Egypt? No, aiming into Gaza. All right, let's bring it up because I got one more video from Rafah, which is going to be IDF perspective. And I want to say it is Merkava tank stuff. It is. And infantry moving through Rafah. IDF. All right, I said I don't backseat drive. I just want like one full one of these videos. As IDF, if you guys are out there, there are folks that are absolutely in Israel that watch this show. Like we have actually had somebody tag us in something from Israel as a rocket attack was happening. Please send me some of this raw footage rather than the choppy. We got like 4 seconds left. Anyway. I just wanted to watch this part again. All right, let's bring it up. Now, I have a general or unknown location section. It's not necessarily an unknown location. It's all taking place in Gaza, but I don't have a great semblance of where in Gaza it's taking place, but there's a couple videos in here. Now, this is Ahmed Yasser al-Qara. In his assassination by Israel. He is one of the operatives from the October 7th attacks on Israel. This is an interesting discussion relative to collateral, relative to preservation of human life, of innocent human life. Something that Israel is being blamed for not doing at all. What you're going to see is a child here on a bicycle come into frame. Now, Israel supposedly has a strike package ready to hit this building with. They see this child come into frame. According to Israel, they hold until immediately after this child comes back out of frame or makes it far enough away to not be injured in the blast. So what is reported to be a child then leaves frame, and this building is about to be removed. And it's gone. All right, let's bring it up. Discretion advised on this next one. One of the things that we catch all kinds of, this is most prominent in Ukraine, this comment theme that I see from folks. You see a lot of Ukrainians and Russians kind of firing over trenches like this, you know, doing some of this stuff. Well, that's because you don't want to put your head over that. Right? You put your head over that, you get a well-aimed shot on a perfectly silhouetted target, and suddenly your head is turned into a canoe. An elevated position doesn't always necessarily mean that you have an advantage. What you're going to see here is you're going to see two Hamas or militants of some kind. And the only reason I say that is I don't know which organization they might be a part of. They could be, again, a part of the PIJ. They could be Hamas. Who knows at this point. But they have an elevated position, and they're firing on the IDF, and the IDF just isn't having it. Discretion advised on this one. Here's the footage. All right, let's bring it back up. Interesting bit of footage here with Hamas operating an SA-7, a Grail, surface-to-air missile. There's a reason I'm showing you this, though. We'll talk about it at the end of the footage. I can very easily explain that. Russia gave it to Iran, and Iran gave it to Hamas. Or just Iran gave it to Hamas. That's simple. They're firing at an Apache. I have no idea what happened at the end of it. I don't know. What I'm showing you that for is the capability. They do have an anti-air capability. Whether or not they actually hit the Apache after that, I cannot be certain. Right? But there's also footage, and you can check the website for this, of even down in Yemen, in the Houthis. Over the last 30 days, the Houthis have actually shot down 3 Reaper drones. That's 3 Reaper drones in 30 days. Let's move on to the next bit of footage. I don't know why. I don't even know why I have this one. Here you go. This is in Jenin, I think. You got a civilian vehicle here. Oop. Back up. Back. Back. All right. Okay. This one's a little bit wild, and it should be our last video that we have from Israel tonight. This is another one of those that I put out for us on Twitter. The prominence of drones. God, we've talked about drones so much on this show. Like, just almost ad nauseum, and how much they are changing. Drones are taking away entire jobs, military occupational specialties from the military right now. But they're not just being used. Hold on, let's back up for a second. ISIS started the drone thing. People might go back and say, well, Obama, somebody did that. They said, well, Obama started drones. No, you're talking about 2 different types of drones. We're talking about the economy of scale of commercial off-the-shelf drones. ISIS started this. Ukrainians didn't. This isn't a Ukrainian thing. Russians didn't. This isn't a Russian thing. You need to go all the way back to the Syrian civil war. You need to go back to 2015, 2016, and see ISIS dropping C4 from their drones. But now we're all the way here, where nation states are using commercial off-the-shelf drones. Here you go. So these guys get found out by this drone, right? I don't know what organization they're a part of. If I just say Hamas, that might not be accurate. I'm just going to say Hamas, but they're looking at this drone. One of them tries to shoot it. That guy threw a rock at it. But then they don't move. Like they're still there. And there it is. So earlier I mentioned that drones are kind of taking an entire specialty away from the military. What I'm talking about is forward observation. So your Fisters, your Foxes, your 13 Foxes, your Scouts to a certain perspective, your long-range surveillance teams. These drones are out there performing the missions that would historically necessitate putting, a human life on ground. And they're doing it very well. But that's what you just saw. What you just saw was a drone performing some level of fires coordination, whether that's coordination for another drone to come flying in, or if that was one of Israel's, weird laser-guided mortars that they have. I think it's like a 120-millimeter mortar. Wild stuff. And from an efficacy perspective, it's very effective. Here is that team. Discretion should have been advised ahead of time. It's the war show. So let's bring it up. We're going to pause for a second because I need to check in on the support, and we're going to be shifting. I ran out of pink mist. We're going to be shifting over to the footage from Ukraine. David Crockett, thank you for the $5. Glad to see your live streams back in action within the recent weeks. By the way, has anyone told you you look like Ricky Stenhouse Jr.? I don't even know who that is. But thank you. Is that good? I hope that's good. Maybe Ricky Stenhouse Jr. looks like me. I feel bad that I don't know who that is. I feel like I'm going to take a bunch of shit for that, but thank you very much for the $5. Tuver Certified Human, thanks very much for becoming a member. Pontus, thank you for the 10 gifted. He's a NASCAR driver. Oh, I don't watch NASCAR. I don't have anything wrong with NASCAR. I don't get into it. John Maxwell, thank you for the $5. You may be nobody, but you're our nobody. We'll be nobodies together. And with all of our nobodies combined, we are Captain Planet. Thank you for the $5, sir. John Maxwell, thank you for the 5. Steve, thank you very much for the 17 months. 17 months is a long time, man. And that's cool as shit. Chuck, thank you for the $5. The Boston Tea Party was a terrorist act, but we won, so they are patriots. Yeah. 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 One, I talk a lot about some of the things that we studied coming up in information operations and information warfare. There was a propaganda photo that was done for the Boston Massacre. And you should totally go back and read the story of that because it was 100% done from a propaganda perspective. I don't want to dive too far down that rabbit hole. Because then you're going to get into, this or that, or which box, who's the bad guy, who's the good guy. I don't care. I just don't. Continuing down the support, though. Board in California, thank you for the 762. Ronald, happy birthday. Not my birthday, man. You're like the daily dose of internet, but war clips. Thanks for the work. Thanks for being here. For more clips, because I can only cover like 5% of what we cover at Funker, go to the website and go to the app. There's anywhere between 15 and 20 new clips published to the app and website every day. When we scaled up to have 4 writers, so we've got Josh, Will, Cam, and Cole, that drastically, there's infighting for who gets to certain clips first, to archive those and save those away from a historical documentation perspective. We sent in World War II, we sent Hollywood directors, and their sole job was to bring back, propaganda-type footage from World War II. But what happened with all the stuff in between, the Go Get 'Em Boys footage, right? What about the elation? What about the visceral footage of combat? That's the role that Funker 530 plays. We're not perfect by any means, not even close. But the more we're able to scale, the more of that footage we're able to set aside from a historical perspective, from a lessons learned perspective. And the more that you guys check in on the website, the more we're able to scale. It's that simple. It is that simple. So thank you again for the 762. Michael, thank you for $25. So many dollars. Been watching you guys for a long time. Glad to be able to support you finally. Well, thank you for it. The stream is free. 100% free. No dollar that you send in is necessary. We appreciate it very much, but it's never necessary. And thank you very much for it. Jeremy, thank you for the $2. Happy birthday. Not my birthday. Mission Your Mom, thank you for the $10. When do you think we'll see F-16s in the air? Presumably over Ukraine. The first batch of F-16 pilots for Ukraine just graduated from, where is that, Arizona? I don't remember where they were training at, but now they're headed over into Europe to train even further. I wouldn't say we're too far away from that. Once again, the same thing that I'll say when it came to the Abrams, when it came to HIMARS. HIMARS was actually kind of a game changer, but we're going to talk about HIMARS in a second. But under most circumstances, no single capability is going to be some kind of a silver bullet. Drastically improving the air capability for Ukraine will have an effect, but will it win the war in Ukraine for Ukraine? No. No, it won't. But it is going to be interesting to see American air alongside SAAD type roles that they're using like HIMARS stuff for. We're going to see in action one of those examples. I'm interested to see what happens with that. Now, a lot of the capabilities that they would get with F-16s, they've retrofitted their MiGs for, the harms, stuff like that. Anyway, I don't, we're going down into the weeds, but thank you very much for the $10. And let's move into Ukraine. I've been holding my water bottle here for like 10 minutes, and I haven't taken a drink out of it. I'm going to pull up the Ukraine control map, UA control map, at UA control map on Twitter. I like their work. It is a more robust map than other mapping options that are out there. And we're going to start up in Kharkiv, where there is still quite a bit of activity in Vovchansk. We're going to see an overview of Vovchansk right now and what it looks like. Discretion's advised on this right out of the gate. Tank, I've seen your question like 3 or 4 times, but you keep calling us Dunker, so I have not responded to it. Now, there's a reason that I show you this. Vovchansk was actually in a pretty solid state of repair up until just about a month ago. The majority of this destruction that you're seeing right now has taken place over a very short period of time. Where does the 530 in Funker come from? I don't know. That is the mystery. If you guys can guess that, you win an internet high five. And this happened throughout a week or two, right? Yeah, more or less. That's kind of my point. These are wearing military uniforms here. Don't know if they're Ukrainian or Russian. All right, let's bring it up. Now, staying in Vovchansk, Ukraine has actually taken back, I wouldn't say quite a bit being relative, but Ukraine has taken back at least some level of ground. Now, we're going to use, again, UA control map for this, and there's going to be a big legend on the side. I have to keep that open just because, but this is where we're headed. this street here, where you're going to see, well, this dot that's very small that you might not even be able to see. We're going to see a striker, an American-supplied striker being used by the Ukrainian 82nd Air Assault Brigade to take back ground inside of Vovchansk. We've covered quite a bit of footage from Vovchansk. If you recall this hospital here from last week, and the Russians assaulting that and then subsequently rappelling out of the window without a harness. That took place here. But throughout the course of the last week, a lot of this ground had been estimated as being taken by Russia. Well, here is footage of an 82nd Air Assault Brigade striker barreling through that area. Coming up for you now. Now, there is combat sound to this, but it's overlaid with music. For those that weren't aware or that weren't here for last week, I tried covering this last week, but I'll do my best to cover it again. One of the biggest challenges in the presentation of footage from Ukraine is that most of it is overlaid with music that has copyright problems. So I don't care if the stream gets demonetized. This has absolutely nothing to do with monetization. What it does do when I play footage that has copyright music in it, most of the people that watch this show, I consider it just kind of connecting with our community more than a show. We used to try to have some branding around it. I digress. What ends up happening with that when we get copyright claims is we have to use an internal YouTube tool to then cut that section of the stream out. Otherwise, YouTube just stops showing it to the audience. When we do that, it deletes the live chat. And the live chat is actually one of the most valuable parts of this. Seeing the interaction amongst the community, sometimes it's spicy, sometimes it's very valuable, like correcting me on the grenade launcher, for example. Great context. But when we play that copyright music on the stream, it ends up deleting the live chat. Somebody made a comment like, just turn the live chat back on. Like, no, you're not listening. YouTube deletes the live chat when we do that. So for the majority of Ukraine footage, I typically try to watch that unless it is devoid of music silently. Unfortunately, it takes out a lot of context, and video is already an imperfect lens into what we're trying to glean, which is some of the reality on the ground. But still, it protects our ability to show as much of our community the footage that we're finding for me to do so. Anyway, Russian perspective footage from Vovchansk. This is from the air, though. This building specifically here is about to get hit by a Fab 1500. Very large munition just inside of the Ukrainian control area. This is one of the reasons I love this map, is it not only includes last known Russian locations, so this being the 272nd motor, but also the Ukrainian locations. And these are just generalized locations. But this is the Russian Volunteer Corps there, 36th Marines, 71st Jaeger Brigade. But this building, let's go back and search, paste, bing bong. This building is about to take a Fab 1500 right on its roof. Coming up now. Big boom. Did Ukraine mine the border? Hopefully. Oh, didn't even mean to click on that one. Let's come up. We're headed into Luhansk. Don't have a great location for this, but it is reported to be in the Crimea forest. And it's at night. the interesting thing about this one is it's Brazilian volunteers fighting on behalf of Ukraine, and you can actually see the tracers being exchanged between the two lines, between the two forward lines. Brazilian volunteers fighting reportedly in the Crimean forest. This one we will have sound for.
Cuidado aí, a metralhadora. Manda. Abaixa. Neves, abaixa. Vai! Manda!
We're going to pause for a second because we have a comment in the chat that I need to kind of focus on for a second. The comment comes from Space Frog with a W. It says, the soft highlight reel video crosses the line, showing the unaltered faces of dead soldiers. Funker 530 has also crossed the line by platforming that content. Shame on you. I won't walk with you. You don't have to. I mentioned this earlier in the stream. We will piss off 100% of you at some point in time. We also published footage of Spetsnaz as they were ambushing Ukrainians in an unaltered way. We published video of Ichkerian Chechens ambushing Russians inside of Russia. You're ultimately speaking to the balance that we have to deal with every day, and what to show and what not to show, what pertains to value when it comes to better understanding the war that's happening on the ground, and what is just solely out there for gore. Specific to that video, I have my own take on why we published that. There is a perception that Ukraine is not actively taking the fight to Russians in certain areas. Russia is actively on the offensive and has the initiative and the upper hand right now. But Ukraine is also doing the same. That video showcases some of these SOF units that our SOF, the United States Special Operations Forces, trained, because we've been alongside Ukrainians as American Special Operations for quite a while. We will piss off 100% of you, and that's okay. That's what we're here to do. I drew the short straw in being the face of that. I get a lot of shit, and that's all right. But that's what we're here for. Moving on. We're going to take a look at Bilohorivka, also in Luhansk, where Russia effectively just blankets the town in what appears to be both Grad and TOS-1A, thermobaric fires. I got pissed when you stopped wearing your short shorts. When did that happen? Seriously, though, take a pause for a second and look at this. I'll show you Bilohorivka here in a moment. These fires are absolutely blanketing this town, some of which, again, are reported to be thermobaric TOS-1A fires. Some of them are going to be Grad, BM-21 Grad. What is that, 122 millimeter rockets? I'll show you how small Bilohorivka is as well. Let's head over to the map. I don't have a geolocation for it, but we can use Google Earth. Stand by. Talk amongst yourselves. This is not a major metropolitan center. This is the imagery that I mentioned earlier. So I mentioned that Google Earth, and this has been this way for some time. It just really stood out to me when I was looking at the top-down perspective of Bilohorivka. But this is that updated imagery I mentioned at the start of the stream. You're starting to see the landscape as Google Earth continues to kind of just bring itself more up to date. You're starting to see the destruction. Look at these houses. What were houses and are now rubble. But this is Bilohorivka. Let's move. We're headed into Donetsk, where the ATACMS. Let's just watch the footage of this one, and we'll talk about it here in a second. We're headed here to this field. Okay, I'm gonna turn it on 3D mode, and I'm gonna rotate the camera to about like this. Now Donetsk. Now that I've shown you this view, just kind of I don't know, blink twice. That way it gets stuck in your brain. Stop messing with me. There we go. And then we're going to go back to 2D, and I'll give you a better understanding of where that is. And then let's go and see the forward line. So we're deep. We're deep here. Deep, deep, deep. We're going to see video of an ATACMS strike. Specifically, what appears to be a variant of the M39 ATACMS, submunition variant. What you're looking at are reported to be S-400, an S-400 battery, possibly accompanied by an S-350 radar. You've got multiple transporter erector launchers, TELs, around it. Right now, it's basically backed into a corner doing what it can like a honey badger, trying to fend off from something. And that's what it was trying to fend off, an ATACMS strike. So there was a question that was raised. The way I'm about to phrase this is going to sound like I'm poking fun, but I'm honestly not trying to. There was a question that was raised on Twitter when I published this to Twitter that said, is the S-400 battery firing and defending from the ATACMS missile, or is it dumping its payload to reduce the secondary explosion possibilities? While I can understand sending everything that you have against the ATACMS to try and keep it from hitting your very, very expensive and very modern air defense platform, I can't for the life of me understand why you would dump all of your payload, just generally speaking, to allow it to hit so that the field that you're in doesn't get more damage done to it. That doesn't make sense to me. If there are air defense or ADA guys in the chat, or gals, is that something that is normal? In my brain, what's happening here is the S-400 is doing its very best to shoot down a 1990s technology missile, and it's not really having a whole lot of effect because, it's now gone. Let me show you some footage from on the ground. Here, hold on. This is footage of the launcher. One of the TELs, the TELs.
Ну, впоследствии чего осталось? Вот это ебала ракета нахуй. Вот воронки от нее, блядь. Вот. Все, пиздец. Все сгорело нахуй.
Operator smashing the button. Yeah. I mean, but that's kind of my point. Is the inference was, and this is just me having a conversation with you guys. Again, I don't consider this a show. I consider this an interaction. If I pulled up like my notes for you here, I'm going to do that right now. If I pulled up my notes for you, I don't have a script, right? It's just a list of videos and my thoughts about them. So the inference with that person was, well, it's not really trying to defend against it. What it's doing is dumping its payload off due to the inevitable strike. Why would you do that? Why would you not use the platform, the air defense platform, to defend against the air? I don't know. I just thought that was one of the, I'm going to be honest, I thought that was one of the stupidest questions I had seen, and it might be based on my ignorance. Let's move on. So that was in Donetsk. We're going to head to Chasiv Yar, where Russia has taken quite a bit of ground of late. Just going to show you the footage here. This is a Russian assault on the town. I don't have a great date-time group for this one, though. But they do make their way into the town. You can actually see the armored column firing at what are presumed to be Ukrainian locations. This vehicle's firing right now. You can see its impacts here. Maybe a BTR. Another vehicle peeled off to the right there. Some airstrikes. All right. Now, also in Chasiv Yar, and again, without a whole lot of an understanding of when exactly this took place. Again, we're the footage team. I do my best to try and cover things as close to currency as possible. That way it can inform or guide current status of the forward line of troops. That's just not the overarching purpose. There are other shows that are out there, other, channels that are doing very much so a forward line of troops analysis. And I mean, some of them are, like former bodybuilders trying to do war analysis, whatever. We're not here to do that. I don't claim to have any expertise in doing stuff like that. Here is the footage of the Ukrainian Foreign Legion fighting in Chasiv Yar. Music on the back end again. Got to keep it quiet, guys. It's unfortunate that we don't have any of the sound from on the ground for this one. Let's see what I can do about it. Yeah. That's almost undoubtedly copyright. At least this guy can hit with an AT4, right, Ronnie? Battle Chemist, I don't have any problem banning a moderator. Or at least putting your ass in timeout. Don't you have it on the site? Yeah, we're actually looking at this from the site right now. This is our player. We built this video player. But it doesn't change the fact that YouTube, that we're streaming this on YouTube right now, and YouTube is going to be what catches the copyright. That's actually something I don't think we've talked about a lot. The Funker 530 platform is nearly 100% separate from big tech. Nothing that we do here on YouTube ultimately will impact the Funker 530 mission. That's one of the reasons that we continue to show the stuff that we do here. Obviously, we want to protect the YouTube platform. It's where we started. We'll continue to kind of post here and maybe just change how we do that over time. But we built our own video player now. Our website is 100% custom built. We're not reliant on any third party. We're very proud of, especially over the last couple years, all the drastic changes that we've made to separate from big tech. While we would love to take it back to the heyday of, footage after footage upload to YouTube, the changes that YouTube has made to their terms of service just would not make that viable or feasible. We'd rather play inside of their sandbox the way that we have been, providing context rather than raw footage on YouTube. That way it allows us to continue to connect. But the best on the website is yet to come. I'll talk about that here in a second. Ronnie, what are we playing after stream? I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. The best is yet to come on the website. Yesterday, Funker and I just reviewed a major website overhaul. So over the years, the website has kind of gone through iterations of changes just to bring it to a more modern state. We reviewed the next one, and it is a sweeping change to the aesthetic feel and functionality of the website. There's going to be all kinds of big changes coming. There are going to be conflict landing pages eventually you say you're interested in going to watch India-Pakistan and the conflict that they've had historically. There will be a conflict landing page for that. The same thing for the Russo-Ukrainian war, for Israel-Palestine. So these landing pages are going to have effectively what is very objective write-up of the origins of the conflict, some of the major, most gravity-laden footage from each of those kind of featured right at the top. Massive overhaul of the website coming soon. I don't know if Funker's going to be very excited that I'm talking about that, but getting a chance to see it in its current state, we have like a developer area. It was awesome, and we're super proud to roll that out here very soon. It'll apply to the app as well. We're going to move into Solovyova. Solovyova. We're going here, okay? Going right there. This is going to be a Russian armored assault that effectively gets ground to a halt by the Ukrainians. So as they are moving to assault this area, that armored assault is just going to get hammered by artillery and FPV drones. Wrong button. Sorry. Video's coming up for you now. This was recorded by the 47th Brigade. We're going to see some more footage from the 47th here in a moment. Keeping the sound off again. Can't park there. I believe there is sound on this, but I think it's music. Yeah. Now, again, don't take me showing you this as me saying that, Russia is not gaining ground. That's something that is really difficult. It's really difficult to have a nuanced conversation about really either the war in Ukraine or the, war in Palestine, in Israel, in Gaza. Saying something generally supportive, I'm not saying you're supporting something, but supportive of the actions of one or the other belligerent, typically means you get placed into a box as supporting that belligerent. So when I say supportive, I mean Russia is gaining ground. You say that to somebody and it's like, oh, why are you on Putin's nuts? You say Ukraine is defending themselves well. Suddenly, you are on Ukraine's nuts. There are some of us out there. I'm going to shift out of Funker 530 mode and into Ronnie mode for a second. There are some of us out there that really don't give a shit who is fighting Russia, because Russia is a stated adversary of the United States. They have been. I spent 12 years in the intelligence community watching them posture against the United States from an espionage perspective, from a cyber threat perspective, and they're very good. A lot of people talk about China and their cyber capabilities. Russia's very good. If China does smash and grab jobs, Russia is very good at very strategically hiding everything that they're doing. They are the pinprick, and they get exactly what they want. And they've been doing that for decades. Russia is a stated adversary of the United States. I don't care if it was Zimbabwe that was fighting back against Russia. The degradation of Russia from a capability perspective ultimately benefits the United States because, stated themselves, Russia is an adversary of the United States. Anyway, that might clarify a little bit. I haven't covered that in a little while, but I wanted to make sure to clarify my personal. I do not speak for Funker 530. I speak for, spell my name right. There's a D. It's not AT, it's AD. Spell my name right when you complain to your congressman. It's important for me to do that because not all of us play inside of this supporting one nation or another. I fly one flag. It is the United States flag. It's beautiful. Waves in the wind. It's lit. I love it. Some of us believe that overall, the success of Ukraine does provide value to the United States and the freedoms that we have. I'm not afraid to say that. And I'll continue to say the same thing that I've said since day one. Let's move on. Let's talk about United States equipment and how just damn good it is. This is a Bradley Appreciator post, but it is going to be filmed from the perspective of Russians. Russians are going to destroy a Bradley. But then another Bradley is going to come in, big dick swinging it, and rescue the entire crew of that first Bradley, take hits from an RPG itself, and still make it out of theater, or make it out of this engagement. Here you are. So that Bradley is toast. It gets hit with both FPV drones and RPGs, and it takes it out. That Bradley's done. But what sets the Bradley apart, and we've seen this since the quote-unquote counteroffensive of Ukraine in Zaporizhia, is how it protects its crew. What you're going to see here is another Bradley that comes in absolutely swinging. That 25 millimeter is just going at it right now. The entirety of the crew of that Bradley is going to offload into the other Bradley. It just took an RPG or an FPV drone. This second Bradley did here. Bradley's a tank. I don't care. We can fight about it if you want. Now, as it's making its way out, first of all, they zigged when they should have zagged, and they're going to have to back up and then zag here. But as it's making its way out, it's going to do so under artillery fires, and some of them are going to be really, really close. From a CEP perspective, that's close. That's close. That's close. And our friend Brad is just getting after it. Bradley Appreciator post. Let's move on. The glide-launched small-diameter bomb. Russia was actually very, very effective in jamming these little suckers. There was a lot of discussion about the GLSDB when it was first kind of announced for Ukraine. It's a very capable little munition, can be fired by the HIMARS. They had to make a few changes to the GLSDB before it could be shipped over there. It was meant to be airdropped, but they made changes to allow it to be ground-launched by the HIMARS system or the M270. The majority, if not all of the M270s that have been provided by European allies. So what we're going to see here is 4 GLSDBs hitting this house, which is just inside of Russian-controlled ground here near Novomikhailivka. Here is that footage coming up for you in a moment. Now, there is like a super slow-mo version of this, but we'll just watch the full speed one. 1, 2, 3. And I think there were actually like 2 at once there. Like at one point, it looks like it's just 3, but I think there were 2 flying side by side at one point here. It might only be 3. No, that's 4. Yep, 1, 2, 3, 4. Bing bong. Very capable little munition. But Russia was very effective in jamming this early on. And this actually might be some of the first easily identifiable footage I've seen of the GLSDB. I'm sure there's other footage that we've watched, that we've looked at, that was GLSDB, but this is very clearly that munition. Another day, and another terrible T-Series tank having its turret popped by a $500 robot. I don't care who's driving the T-Series tank. It's a shitty tank, man. You know, the Abrams is very susceptible. Don't take that as meat. You know, again, not in one box or the other. The Abrams is very susceptible to FPV drones. Here's what it doesn't do. That. The turret isn't even attached to it anymore. Duca, thank you very much for the $10 or 1090 is that rubles? What is that like? It doesn't matter. After all, who's winning ground in the last days? Russia. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Russia has gained quite a bit of ground. Ukraine is absolutely on the back foot at the moment. Volokivka. Russia recently took out another bridge. I'm going to show you guys that bridge location here. It's this bridge near Volokivka. If you couldn't tell, we're kind of moving. We started in the north, up here near Kharkiv. We're moving. And we went into Luhansk, saw some footage out of Crimea. Then we moved into Chasiv Yar and Donetsk. Now we're here, where Russia took out another bridge. Both Russia and Ukraine are actively taking bridges out, which, I mean, you talk to any military historian, bridges are absolutely strategic targets. And then when you go back and you talk about the conversation surrounding Kerch and whether or not to take out the Kerch Bridge, or if that is a, quote, terrorist attack of some kind, that is absolutely a funnel for military equipment being used in Ukraine. And it, in my opinion, would be a military target. Just like this bridge, technically, is a military target if you accept the fact that Russia is in Ukraine as a part of the overarching war and is not in and of itself a crime. Here's the bridge. That one's toast. Makes you wonder what drone defense tech is going to be. There's quite a few takeaways about drone defense technology, and there's a lot more capability than people think, especially in the U.S.'s back pocket. There are capabilities that we have developed and are developing that are much more aligned against a kind of defense in depth that you'd see for like air defense, just specific to drones. Right, you'll have permanent, semi-permanent, mobile, and all the way down to the team level of capabilities. I've got to go back. Maybe we need to do another show specifically about drones, and we'll talk about some of those different capabilities. The last time we did that, we were in the last studio. It might be a good refresher. We saw Fab 1500 earlier. We're going to head into Kherson, and we will see the Ukrainian Air Force dropping 2 French AASM hammers. Somebody made a comment that Ukraine doesn't have an Air Force. They absolutely have an Air Force. It ain't big. One of the reasons that they need F-16s. So is China? Yeah, but it's made in China. I don't think I need to elaborate. I've got a location for that one. Yeah, let's go ahead and pull that up. We haven't looked at the Kherson area so far tonight. Matter of fact, we haven't spent a whole lot of time in Kherson anyway. So that took place here. I was reading the chat while also running the thing there. All right, let's move on. I've got a couple more videos. The 1st Farmers Brigade, we haven't talked about them in a while. But I guess at this point they're in not give a shit mode. The best way to explain this video is to just go ahead and watch it. Here you are.
Блядь, ждем противника в полном напале. И тут, короче, такая хуйня едет. Это по поводу оборонительных, блядь, сооружений, блядь. Реально, короче, опрыскивают, блядь, поле. Прикинь, чувак вообще бессмертный, короче. Тут на голове такое
Dude's just
летает,
out there
блядь.
not caring. He's gonna work that field.
Прикиньте, блядь, это Харьковщина, это реально, короче, жесть, блядь. Пацаны в блиндажах попросыпались, думал, танчик прикатил.
What's crazy is across the field, like on the other side of that field, is Russian-held territory.
Боже, вот это, сука.
And this dude's he's got to do what he's got to do, you know. He's gonna spray those crops. Discretion advised on this. This is actually the last bit of. Well, it's not the last video. I definitely have a last video for you tonight. I wouldn't say that. Anyway, here is discretion advised. An entire Russian squad being targeted by and killed by an M2, a Madus, a 50 cal. And then what follows after is a long compilation of other strikes. But this is probably the most interesting bit of that footage. Josh made a comment that if you would have told him, a year ago that he would be archiving footage of a 50 caliber Browning just absolutely laying into an entire element of Russians, he would have told you were mistaken. That's what you're about to watch here. So again, discretion is advised on this video. Here it is.
63 high, coming in on target.
Up here, you have Russians kind of advancing along both sides of this hedgerow. This is an emplaced, according to the video and according to the source, an emplaced M2. Russians here, Russians here. The machine gun emplacement, I don't think they can see these guys, but he sees these guys. And that's how that happened. I recall there being a longer version of this somewhere. But I did give you the discretion advised way ahead of time on this one. All right, let's bring it up. I always have one more video for you, and I'll show you guys that one on the way out the door. We're going to follow up our combat tub from last week with another one. Thanks for being here, as always. Thank you for continuing to check in with us. We are imperfect. I am imperfect. I do my best to show you guys footage from as many perspectives as possible, while still, of course, having my own opinions, which I rarely go into. I touched on a few of them tonight, but they're even deeper than what I mentioned tonight. It's much more complex for me than something as simple as this team or that team. I'd like to thank our sponsor for the show. Our sponsor tonight is Venture Surplus. Venture Surplus has been a supporter of this show, and so far will continue to be. So we hope that you guys will support them, especially if you need any kind of milsurp type gear. Funky 10 gets you 10% off. We don't make any money from you using that. I wouldn't be afraid to tell you if we did, because it all comes back to the team. But please do use that. I've ordered quite a bit from them. I've talked about all the different things that I've ordered. The only thing that's really going to bankrupt me with that code is if they decide to start carrying silkies, because I go through those pretty quickly. Last video for tonight is going to just be a pretty simple one. It's not the funniest video that you'll see. I just thought it was interesting, and the way Josh, just bringing up Josh again, the way he described it, maybe giggle. So I hope it makes you giggle. Here is the power of friendship used by the Free Syrian Army, which is its own ball of wax to get into, to employ a machine gun. Instead of a Toyota, they had to use each other to make it happen. Good night. I'll be headed over to the other stream, and I hope you guys will join me over there. It's going to automatically redirect you. But if not, we'll see you next Friday for some more war footage, and stay informed. Bye-bye. One more time, just because I think it's funny. Teamwork makes the dream work. Good night.